hospital, they use clinicians I guess they're called like test assistants or something, but then the actual neuropsychologist, the neuropsychologist does not do the testing themselves. I like to do it myself because I get to see work with the child. There are computer-based tests, so sometimes I'll do group testing for like concussion tests, where I can run a whole group of kids on a concussion computer test for a short period of time. Most of these things are done one-on-one. Some of the testing is also done through parent-teacher rating forms. So part of the testing is not just one-on-one. You probably fill out parent rating forms on your school-based assessment, and the teachers do as well, because I do want to have the parents kind of input on how things are, and the teachers input on how things are. Sometimes it's necessary to go do school observations. I know some of the kids have more social deficits, social weaknesses. It's really helpful for me to see that at school. Sometimes I don't see the social problems one-on-one through testing because they're more fun on the one-on-one testing and more interactive. But when I see them on the playground, I kind of see they're kind of by themselves a lot. Not, the peers not interacting with them, but kind of left behind. It's good to have that observational piece to it. So a lot of the testing looks at normative scores. So when I'm looking at a child's scores, I'm looking at kind of like how do they do compared to the overall norm of kids. It looks at percentiles, you look at grade equivalencies, just kind of what's their grade level, what's the score at. So I'll look at kind of how they compare to the normative sample, but also look at how they do with their own personal profile. Some things there. So, any questions so far? Do you think you guys want to have your children get neuropsych testing? It's helpful. It really is helpful. But that is the end of the slide portion of it there. I do have my contact information here. I'd be more than happy to help talk with anybody here about their test scores or the school test scores. And a lot of times the things that we do here at HEAL program. Oh, by the way, HEAL stands for Hospital Educational Advocacy Liaison. So that's all I do. I love it. I test the kids, and the kids often say, "Is this all you do? What do you do for a living?" And I say, "Yeah, that's what I do." And then, "Oh, this is so boring." But I really like it a lot. It's fun to kind of be like a detective, kind of figure out kind of how things are working and functioning. But I enjoy looking at like school things, like Jeanne and I will look at like IEPs and school testing. So some parents have had testing outside, and we'll kind of look at, kind of find patterns of things that the schools have done already. You can add on to that if needed. So my contact information is here. You can email me, or my phone number's on there too. I have 4 kids myself, so it's easier for me to use email. Really, I'd rather guess using the phone. I can reply back if I'm like, hey, I guess I just slides in at an early time this morning. It always helps. I won't say what I said, the slides in. But that's the contact information there. But any questions about the assessment piece of the thing? Very useful. Yeah, or that.
Everyone can hear me okay? So my name is Jeanne Kane, and I'm the supervisor of the HEAL School Reentry Program. And I want to talk a little bit about not actual K through 12 school per se, but what do you do next? So schools, we're pretty familiar with the school system. You start in kindergarten, you go to school through the end of 5th grade, you move to middle school, you go through middle school, go through high school, but high school is really preparing you to move on to college. So what is it that a high school really is responsible for doing? So if you talk about it, it's a dream. But if you envision it, it's possible. But if you schedule it, it's for real. So we're going to use that kind of as a step forward, saying you really need to get involved with your post-secondary, your after high school planning, and it needs to happen earlier on than you think. So we're going to cover 3 areas about that. I'm going to talk a little bit about the IEP transition process, including what the law says. I'm going to talk about what do colleges and what vocational resources are out there for students with disabilities, and looking at 3 important resources. The basics of how to plan for after high school, what can you get in terms of benefits from state disability, and also what does the California State Vocational Rehabilitation Program offer. So just really briefly, an IEP is part of Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. It was passed by Congress in 1974. It was reauthorized in 2000, and it was 1975 and reauthorized in 2004. And the purpose was, this is a federal law that says it's a formal process that assesses children with disabilities. It provides special education and programs and services. It guarantees a fair, appropriate public education. It has to be given in the least restrictive environment. And there are 13 eligibility categories. So one of those categories, once a student is assessed, they're considered eligible if they meet criteria out of 13 different types of disabilities. The one most of the children that I see and most of the children with muscular dystrophy would be under other health impaired. And that says that they have a chronic ongoing medical illness that adversely impacts their ability to learn, their vitality, their alertness, and therefore, in order to receive that pre-appropriate public education, they need some supports to do that. And we want to place them in the least restrictive environment so that they can get the full benefit of what they're capable of doing, but what supports and accommodations do they need. So once a student gets to high school, they start looking at transition planning. And it can be done as young as 14 years old, has to be done by 16 years old. And what is transition planning? It's looking ahead to what is going to be the next step for that student after they get out of high school. Are they going to go on to a 2 or 4-year college? Are they going to go into some kind of vocational training? Are they interested in going straight to work? And how are they going to be supported in that environment? What are they going to do about living? Will they be looking to live on their own? So how are they going to get these skills in order to do any of these things? So under the law, the Individuals with Disability Education Act, transition services are basically they're a coordinated set of activities that are helping to plan how students are going to reach these goals, reach the education, vocation, employment, taking into account the child's individual needs, just like you do with an IEP, and looking at what are their strengths, what are their preferences, and pointing them, and what are their interests. So how does the school facilitate transition services? Once a student's in high school, there are kind of 2 tracks they can take. One is the standard track of getting a graduation diploma, and then they've completed 4 years of high school, they've gotten all of the credits that they need in order to graduate, all of the coursework, and now they're prepared if they want to go on to a 2 or 4-year college or go to work. If a student is in a program that has been modified, meaning the work is not as difficult, that not all the same classes are taking, maybe they're more functional life skills, then that student qualifies for a certificate of completion. So it's not the same as saying they've completed all the coursework for high school, but it's saying they have graduated from high school. When they're in high school, there are tests that counselors give students to see what their interests are right now, and so they can kind of point them in the right direction for what they may want when they graduate. Counselors can also talk about various careers and what it entails and what kind of knowledge you need for that career. They can give the students some insight into that. Some schools have actual job instruction where they can learn different skills so that they can actually apply them to the jobs. Or some have a combination of going to school and working, and those are usually like a workability program that is also between the school and a government agency. So the activities in order to support these kinds of choices would be for a counselor to sit and provide all kinds of brochures, information about various careers and that match the student's interest, how to counsel them to get into some of these programs, what work experience can the school give, if they can give any, or possibly even guide you to some after-school types of activities. They can take students on field trips to local colleges so that they actually get a feel of the campus and can see what that might involve. And they certainly can help filling out college applications. So most high schools have a career counselor in addition to the individual counselor that the student has. So the school counselor may start you in one particular area and then have you see the career counselor. Okay. In 9th or 10th grade, usually that first written test or a survey is given to see what are you interested in. You check off all these different boxes, and then it comes up with, well, maybe you want to be a doctor, maybe you want to be an interior designer, maybe you prefer to drive a bus. And that's what they tell you, the surveys say. And in 11th and 12th grade, a little bit more specific as to what kinds of jobs are you prepared for. Things to look ahead to that can be written as a goal, because a transition plan is just like an IEP. You have to have a goal to be working on. So if your goal is to go on to community college or junior college, what do you have to show that you're working on that year in order to fulfill that goal? Or if you want to go on to a training program, what are you going to have to do that year to actually show that you're working on that particular goal? If you want to go to adult education, that's fine too. Most school districts offer adult ed classes. So more about what the IEP says that has to happen is an IEP we know has to be reviewed every year. In addition, whatever goals have been put down in that transition plan, that has to be reviewed. You have to make sure that whatever had been decided at the beginning of the year, the student will contact 6 colleges either by email or will visit 3 colleges. Then you're going to evaluate that at the end of the year. Did that happen or didn't that happen? Is this something we need to carry on to the next year as a goal? You can ask to invite any of these agencies to an IEP meeting. Most times it doesn't happen, but you can certainly put the idea out to your counselor and say, do you have any representatives that will come and answer questions when we have our IEP meeting? So transitioning, you go from being a big fish in a little pond to a little fish in a big pond, And once you get up to a junior college or a college, it doesn't mean that just because you graduated and just because you have an IEP, you're going to automatically get accommodations. That doesn't happen. Once a student becomes 18 and graduates from high school, or school kids with an IEP can stay in school till they're 22. But at whatever point they graduate or they get their certificate of completion, the IEP stops. It is only a document while someone is in school, in elementary, middle, or high school. At that point, then, a different document comes into play, and that's a 504 plan. So you go from special education into the Americans with Disabilities Act and get all of the accommodations that you're entitled to through that plan. And the Americans with Disabilities Act is also run through the Office of Civil Rights. So you have to apply. You have to actually go to the career counselor at the next institution and say, I need accommodations. I've had them before. How are you going to help me? Sometimes just bringing the IEP is not enough. You may need a note from your doctor saying what your medical disability is. You may also need just a summary statement from your high school saying that you've had accommodations and that you can meet. These are the courses you took, these were your accommodations, you did well, and this is what you'll be needing. So you can ask for that. You can ask for just a summary of what your high school career has been like. Okay, almost every college, JC versus four-year, has a disability resource center. And you can go in, and their point is to give you the assistance that you need to get the accommodations in order to achieve your goals in that school. They are mandated to provide equal access to whatever classes you want to take and whatever programs. The protecting the integrity of the programs and services means that when you're in junior college or college, and you have an accommodation plan, whatever they write for you, they cannot actually change the coursework. They can't modify it at all, meaning whatever that is listed as, these are the assignments you have to do, this is where you have to show competency, that has to stay the same. What they can do, and I'll tell you in just a second, is this you'll find out when you meet with the director from the resource center. You brought your accommodations. So what you can ask them for are special kinds of accommodations, not modifications, like note-taking. Do you need a note-taker? They will supply a note-taker. Do you need to either record lessons? Do you need to get a copy of the teacher's notes? Do you have to have breaks in class that you can get up and wheel out of the classroom or walk out? Do you need to be positioned in a certain place within the classroom? These are all in order to learn best. Testing accommodations, they can arrange for extra time on tests. They can arrange for extra time, extended time on homework. They can arrange to have, I've had students that do not hear, and they'll arrange for someone to sign to be with them in class. There are anything that is making that accommodation so you can get that learning. But they can't say to you, well, you don't have to do this paper, and you don't have to do this test. But they can choose, what I'm going to give you is extra time to turn in this paper, or I can give you a multiple choice test versus asking you to have to do a written test or an essay test. That's not changing the content. So what happens when you're registered with the Students with Disabilities Center, or they all call them by different names. You get a letter from your disability counselor, you take it to the professor, and the professor then knows that you have certain accommodations. There's a plan. They don't have to know anything more than that about you. They don't have to say what's your disability. They know that you've been registered and you're entitled to these services. There are a lot of websites online that can be helpful for transition planning. This is a really good book, their pamphlet that you can look for, Secondary Transition Planning, the Basics, online. And it's about yay thick, and it goes into IEPs, into planning, into, it really ties everything of how to get ready for college. There we go. Disability Benefits 101, this is also a website, really is helpful in terms of what kinds of benefits monetarily does the government provide. If you end up working, how do your benefits affect when you actually take home money-wise? How can you plan ahead? This is also available online. We have a handout also that has all these different websites and resources. You want to play it or skip it?
What time is it?
About 10 after 4.
And we go
Till 4:30.
You could probably show.
Okay. This is about a 6-minute, what did I go back to? Is this just going to start on its own?
Sorry, you have to pass it on the laptop too.
Okay.
It doesn't go.
Okay. This is just a quick 6-minute video that'll talk about, that'll show other students and how they've handled moving ahead. Great.
Adulthood. Things are about to change. So many things to be responsible for that you never really had to do before. But with some help, you can be prepared to take it all on and then go into college, going to work, or living on your own. It's something to look forward to. With the help of some people who've already gone through many of the situations you're about to face, we'll take you through a variety of subjects and give you lots of useful information, tips, and advice that will help you as you transition into adulthood. We'll provide guidance on everything from education and healthcare to finances and independent living. You'll get a great overview of the things you need to know to help you get out there and live the life you want to live. So, let's get started. For me, when I was living with my parents, they did all of my personal care. So they helped me get up in the morning and go to bed at night and a lot of other different things in between. And for me, it was really hard because I was on my parents' schedule. I had to go to bed when they were tired, when they were ready for bed. So for me, living independently was being able to manage my own life.
It felt like the walls were closing in, so I had to get out of where I was raised at. That was scary, but it was also something that I knew I wanted to do if that was going to get me to the next level.
I found that I've grown up so much just in the last couple of years, being on my own and making all my own decisions and not having to worry about, oh, should I ask this person what I should do in this instance, and just taking charge of it and making my own decisions. And I'm proud when those decisions turn out to be the right one, and when they turn out to be the wrong one, I'm proud of myself for going back and fixing and making it right.
The restrictions that I had as a boy are no longer there. I can travel. I don't have to ask someone for permission. But I also know that with that freedom comes a lot of responsibility. There's things that must be done beforehand.
Make appointments, be dependable, plan out your schedule, what you're going to do, be on time.
Housing is very important because you can't just say, oh, that house is cute. I like it. I can afford it. I think I'll rent it. You have to make sure that I can get up those stairs, or I can ramp those stairs to get to the cute house, and that the doorways are wide enough, and that if I can't afford it, if I can qualify for it. I mean, all of these factors fit into independent living. You have to find your house, but you have to make sure that your house is close enough to a way to get to work.
Transportation becomes a very essential point, and the reason for that is, in order for you to cook, you need to make your journey to the grocery store, and you can find yourself in very interesting situations. You know, if you have the resources, you have the skills, and you have the necessary tools to get yourself out of that situation. Living independent has played a lot of roles in my life. One of the biggest one, the most important to me, is learning that I have to be my own advocate, and learning that I need to understand what is it that I need to succeed and surpass any challenges that I get.
Is it important to you to be able to ride a bus on a route that's convenient for you, that's wheelchair accessible? Is it important to you to be able to get your accommodations when you're in college and get the accommodations that you need to be successful in the workplace? And just learning how to advocate is so important. All these aspects of your life.
So that particular video is on the Department of Rehabilitation website with a lot of other videos, a lot of information too about how you can get assistance from the Department of Rehab and when they start offering services to young people. This Talent Knows No Limit is another website, and it has, again, a lot of information talking about best jobs, talking about how the government participates, what kind of innovations is the workforce and the various companies making towards supporting those kinds of jobs. And once you kind of collected, made your transition to your next phase of life, whether it's working or whether it's continuing with your education, you plan, you follow ahead, and you know what? You've got everything. You've already got it made. So are there any questions about anything? Great. Thank you for letting
We
me.
do have the resources
Yes, we have the resources.
listed.
And
Questions?
does anyone have questions in general for any of the panel in terms of Dr. Ambler about the neuropsych assessments? Micheleen is a social worker, and so she handles a lot of those transitions as to who do you go to see, who should you contact, and I'm the education piece.
So just briefly, you were mentioning it would be helpful to have a note from the doctor to provide to the community college.
Right.
So would that be neuropsych testing or?
It doesn't, you don't necessarily need to have, you've had an assessment if you've had an IEP, and so the idea between the neuropsych assessment that I think Dr. Ambler and I agree is if you have it kind of when you're midway through high school, you know what areas are your strengths and what areas would, how would that connect with particular jobs, particular classes. I mean, if you have difficulty memorizing a lot of things and that's not your area of strength, you really want to take, years of chemistry and science and everything to become a doctor, because you're going to have to remember a lot of things. Is there another strength? Are you artistic? Are you someone that really can comprehend a lot of information? Maybe you're going to be a journalist. So I think that's what the neuropsych testing gears you towards. It really shows you what are your areas of strength and weakness. So if you haven't had one, it's a good idea to get one. If you just need a note saying this is my patient, this is their disability, right, and they're entitled to accommodations, then that suffices. And I think a lot of the disability resource centers do some assessment of their own. It's available. It would not be neuropsych usually, like a job inventory and
Or
probably some academic.
OT.
Yeah, OT. Right.
Outside of the school, is there a coaching plan, anything like that? Like, right now, he's in that, he graduated, he's in that transition phase. He's not really sure what he wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely doesn't want to just run back on him. other options, and I don't think you got really the support at school.
Yeah, I think I'd explore some of the websites on the handout, because there are some really good agencies that can offer some options for what you might want to do. In all honesty, you're not going to get super career counseling in high school. And they're going to give you the test to see what you want to do. They're going to tell you, look up 3 colleges and write them down. And they've essentially met the letter of the law, but they haven't really completed the process. And that's just the way that it plays out in high school. So I know you need extra support, but I think some of these websites could be really helpful for that. Okay. Well, thank you for letting me speak with you. And I'm going to close out. So I think they're going to be closing remarks.
We're actually not going to be combining that the groups only because I think we're not going to end on the same time. I think they're still talking over there. So on behalf of CureDuchenne, thank you the families for coming. Speakers obviously from Stanford, we appreciate it. Just a reminder to give your patient registry forms and surveys of our summit to Tracy or Kylie. We do have a few extra shirts up at the front table, so I think we're done first, so you guys can first dibs.